March 2026. Following joint military strikes by the United States and Israel on Iranian territory, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps issued a radio warning to commercial vessels and effectively slammed shut the Strait of Hormuz. This map shows the immediate maritime bottleneck. Over 150 massive commercial tankers dropped anchor right outside the Gulf, unable to risk the passage. Overnight, roughly 1/5 of the world's daily oil supply was trapped. This chart shows how the energy markets reacted. Brent crude spiked past $126 a barrel in a matter of days, triggering a global panic over severe supply shortages. We have seen similar panic recently. Between 2022 and 2024, Western nations imposed massive sanctions on Russian energy exports. The assumption was that cutting off one of the world's largest suppliers would cause global fuel reserves to dry up. Yet the pumps kept flowing. When maritime choke points close and superpowers impose embargoes, the global economy relies on strategic middlemen to keep commodities moving. By positioning itself exactly in the middle of these fractures, India has mastered the art of profiting from the chaos. Back in 2022 and stretching into 2024, the United States and its European allies designed a strict price cap. The goal was to restrict the amount of money Moscow could make from its crude oil, without actually removing that oil from the global market and causing severe inflation. Western nations refused to buy this crude directly, so India stepped in, purchasing massive volumes of heavily discounted Russian oil that the West wouldn't touch. Absorbing that much raw commodity requires massive industrial capacity. Facilities like Reliance Industries' Jamnagar refinery, a sprawling complex in Gujarat, became the primary processing hubs for this incoming crude. Here is where the legal mechanics worked in India's favor. International trade rules dictate that once Russian crude is processed into refined fuels like diesel on Indian soil, it is officially classified as an Indian product. The sanctions no longer apply. This diagram maps out the trade flow. India took the discounted Russian crude, refined it, and exported over $6.5 billion of those exact petroleum products right back to the G7 coalition countries, including the US, the UK, and the European Union. India kept the global energy market fully supplied and pocketed the refining margins along the way. They proved that operating as a neutral conduit between warring economic blocs is a highly lucrative national strategy. The Indian government directed the windfall from this energy arbitrage into targeted manufacturing subsidies. Through the production-linked incentive scheme, they incentivized over 1.7 lakh crore in private investment to expand domestic production lines for everything from medical devices to solar panels. This chart from the Ministry of Commerce shows the outcome of that industrial scaling. By November 2025, total exports reached $73.99 billion in a single month, a 15% increase over the previous year. While traditional sectors grew steadily, the electronics sector saw the most aggressive expansion. Over a single decade, mobile phone exports increased by 127 times, as the government used its trade revenue to build out the domestic infrastructure for global hardware manufacturing. To ensure guaranteed buyers for all these new goods, India went on a diplomatic offensive. They rapidly negotiated and signed major free trade agreements with the United Kingdom, Australia, and a coalition of European nations, locking in zero-duty access to massive consumer markets. In December 2025, they signed a comprehensive economic partnership agreement with Oman. Beyond opening up labor-intensive sectors, this agreement secured a direct trade link with a nation whose geographic position forms the southern border of the Strait of Hormuz. This combination of industrial scaling and targeted trade agreements allowed India to maintain high economic output as the surrounding region entered a crisis. Which brings us back to the dark waters of the Persian Gulf in March 2026. Western nations are currently scrambling military assets to try and force the strait open, facing down a supply crisis and skyrocketing fuel costs. Meanwhile, India is weathering the disruption with high economic stability. By strictly refusing to align with any single geopolitical bloc, they maintain the freedom to buy heavily discounted resources from adversaries, sell finished products to Western allies, and build strategic trade frameworks with the physical gatekeepers of the world's shipping lanes. It is a system built entirely on geopolitical arbitrage, designed to explicitly absorb the shocks of global supply chain disruptions and monetize the resulting imbalances. The period of low-friction free trade has fractured, replaced by a reality defined by blockades, tariffs, and military strikes. In this environment, economic supremacy belongs to the smoothly operating middlemen who ensure the world keeps running.
Hi everyone! Follow me on social media for more fun content. Don't forget to like and subscribe!